This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
A mochi moment from Mark, who writes, I just want to thank you for making GLP-1s affordable. What would have been over $1,000 a month is just $99 a month with Mochi. Money shouldn't be a barrier to healthy weight. 3 months in, and I have smaller jeans and a bigger wallet. You're the best. Thanks, Mark. I'm Myra Ahmed, founder of Mochi Health. To find your Mochi moment, visit joinmochi.com.
Mark is a Mochi member compensated for his story.
Welcome back to another episode of Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. Today is day 38 of the government shutdown. I'm recording this episode on November 7th. If you are listening to this episode November 11th on the date that we publish, this would mean that we are 42 days into the government shutdown. This is the longest shutdown in American history. The last longest shutdown was 35 days, and that was also under the Trump administration. Originally, I did want to talk to you about the impact that this shutdown can potentially have on the economy. This is still a conversation that I want to have with you in the next coming weeks, which will be a much more valuable conversation if the shutdown persists. I'm pivoting this week because on Tuesday, November 4th, New York made American history as it elected Zohran Mamdani as its new mayor. Wall Street has been having a complete meltdown over what took place on Tuesday, November 4th. CNBC is talking about it continuously. Their special guests have been talking about it continuously. They are terrified of the potential impact that he will have, not only on the city, but also on Wall Street itself. And so I think it is important for us to also have this conversation here on the podcast, mostly because I completely disagree with everything that is being said. I also think that Wall Street needs to take a moment and reflect on their contribution to what is taking place, not just in New York City, but across the United States overall. Not only are we experiencing one of the biggest wealth gaps that we've seen in American history, but we are beginning to experience some of the richest people now step into the space of politics and begin to make decisions. And I think that that becomes extremely dangerous. Week after week, I do my best to produce an episode that I think will be beneficial to you so that you can begin learning about the markets and begin to participate in order to somehow alleviate just a little bit of that wealth gap and hopefully have you set up for, at the very least, your retirement. My hope is that with everything taking place, you see how important your participation in the market is, and they also see how important your participation in the market is. Enjoy this week's episode with Eliza, and we'll be back next week.
I had the time of my life. I never felt this way before.
From building timelines to assigning the right people and even spotting risks across dozens of projects, Monday Sidekick knows your business, thinks ahead, and takes action. One click on the star and consider it done.
And I owe it all to you.
Try Monday Sidekick, AI you'll love to use on Monday.com.
It's that time of year again. When you start arranging pumpkins on the stoop, try out a new cranberry sauce recipe, and plan out a tablescape that'll outdo last year's. In other words, it's when you break out all your DIY holiday skills. And now, ADT is making it easy to DIY your home security too. Their systems aren't just simple to set up, they also fit within your budget. So get excited for your next project, because your peace of mind just went DIY. Visit ADT.com or call 1-800-ADT-ASAP. When every second counts, count on ADT.
Okay, so Linda, it's been a rather busy week. I'd say this week feels like it's maybe 3 years long.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, we put out an episode in which you said you were rooting for Zoran Mamdani to win the New York mayoral race. And he did win on Tuesday, which is very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But now the markets are going crazy, and not in a good way.
Right.
Can you explain to me what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is a really important conversation to have, most especially from our perspective. I think even just on Investies, the perspective or the thought process is different from someone that has known Wall Street in a completely different way, which may have been generational or from a point of privilege. I want to set that tone specifically in this conversation. Right now, Wall Street and solid across the board is melting down at the idea of there being a democratic socialist that is going to be mayor in a city that is a capitalist city of the world, is the epitome of capitalism. I personally think it's poetic. I think it is justice. I am completely for Mamdani all the way. And I really want to unpack this because this isn't a conversation I'm hearing, and I really don't have anyone to unpack it with. You know what I mean? And so,
totally. I want to talk about it. I think if I were to say, what I identify as politically, I would say democratic socialist is really close to what I am.
And here's the thing. The United States of America is a democratic socialist country.
Can you break that down?
Yeah. So we have SNAP benefits. We have all kinds of resources that are currently implemented that are socialist resources if we're putting them on a scale on whether they fit into capitalism or socialism. Right. And so that is the beauty of the United States of America, that not only can you come into this country with a thought and an idea and have that idea turn into $1 million or $1 billion business, but there is also the space for Americans and immigrants to not fall through the cracks. That is the beauty. That is how we attract top tier talent. The biggest companies in this country are not founded by 100%, white Americans. They are, the contribution, especially in technology, is from folks across the world, top tier talent that comes to this country to be able to execute at this level from all over the world. And so I would like to argue that this country is, in fact, a democratic socialist country.
Yeah, I agree. I wish we had more social programs. I wish our social programs were more robust. Personally, but
Yes.
I also see other I lived in Germany for a while. My mom is from England. I have a British passport and dual citizenship. Countries in Europe, we like to say, or you hear a lot of conservative politicians be like, "Oh, we don't want the U.S. to be like France." France provides very robust social programs to its citizens, but it's still a capitalist country. You can have socialist programs and socialist, kind of, well, you could have like a socialist vision for the country. To me, socialism is just we take care of each other and through government programs. And you can still have democratic representation, and you can still have you can still have capitalism. You can still
Right.
have a free market. Like, I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. And I think we're extremely misinformed in America about what these things actually are and what they look like in practice.
Yes. And so I think there's two parts here, right? I think there is the part where we take care of our people and which falls under socialism, which I think is extremely important, which is why I don't align with healthcare being capitalized on as well as education. What the portions of socialism that I do fear are the parts of capitalism where the government begins to take control of massive corporations, most especially in a country where white supremacy is what controls the country. That is what I fear. And I think a lot of the times people look at this spectrum as a straight line. My mind doesn't see it as a straight line. My mind sees it as a circle. And so I see communism closer to dictatorship and authoritarianism, but people on the right see socialism as closer to communism. And I don't see it that way. I feel like the right is closer to communism. And yes, the left is closer to socialism. But I do believe that at the other side of the circle, communism and socialism meet. And so my main concerns is the white supremacy in this country and what a solid socialism country would look like in a racist country, what
Yeah.
we're seeing unfold. That is concerning to me. Now, here's the other thing to your point of needing more social programs. It feels like we've been losing social programs. And aside from losing social programs, we are experiencing the biggest wealth gap that we have ever seen, ever in history. And so when I hear Wall Street criticize what Mamdani is asking for and wanting to push, I don't understand how Wall Street can't see that this is a problem that they have created.
Yeah, so let's back up a second. So what are you seeing? So Zoran won on Tuesday. It is now Friday. What have you seen Wall Street criticizing in the days since the election?
I think that they're stoking fears of socialism. And obviously, that's driving different narratives. One of the narratives is that, this is a sign of where the country is headed in terms of the downfall of capitalism, which, yes, but because we have created such a massive wealth gap, because there are issues in specific cities and, the potential of driving business out of New York City and into other cities to flee this agenda. And here's the thing. I really want to convey that I think New York City has a massive issue. And the fact that the ultra wealthy and the most money that comes out of that state is not addressing that issue. So I want to provide a little bit of context on what is happening across the country.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right now in New Mexico, we currently have a governor that has implemented free childcare for its residents in New Mexico. And so obviously that's also going to generate criticism as a socialist position, which is the same as what Mamdani is wanting to provide in New York, right? I think that the wealth gap has gotten so big that we need to take a close look at what is affecting states and specific cities across the country and begin solving for them. And I do believe that the ultra wealthy has the responsibility. I do believe that the biggest corporations in this country, that they have the responsibility to work towards solving for it, whether that is paying higher taxes or coming up with solutions for their cities where they operate. I think that is a social responsibility. And I think that is exactly what he is doing in New York. He is solving for a specific issue that is a problem in his city. Now, in New Mexico, there is also another initiative in the the city of Santa Fe, where if you own a home, and I'm sorry, I have all of these thoughts in my head.
No, it's great. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So in Santa Fe, New Mexico, there is an initiative where anyone that owns a home over $1 million will now be taxed 3% on whatever the amount is over $1 million. So let's say that the house is 1.5 million. They will now be taxed on the 500,000, 3%, and then that is going to go to a fund that is going to help nurses and fire departments and police officers in order to be able to purchase homes.
And they're doing that because someone who owns a house that's ostensibly someone who owns a house that's over $1 million in Santa Fe is in a higher income bracket. So this is a way to get at an income tax, essentially.
Yes, yes. Cool. That specific policy would never work in Texas.
But tell me why.
Not because, we would oppose it or Texans would oppose it, but let's talk about the economic impact of that. In Texas, this is a state where we are 7th highest in the country on property taxes. While we don't pay state taxes, we pay a premium on property taxes. My property taxes are the same as $1 million house in California, and my house is currently valued at a little over $300,000. And so something like this is going to squeeze a different part, I would argue almost a middle class. Not only that, but we have to take into account how much in Texas, specifically cities, houses have increased in value. And so at one point, someone may have purchased their house for $400,000, and now their house is worth over $1 million because of all of the traffic that California has driven into the city. So now we're talking about potentially squeezing a middle class. And so that doesn't work here. But I think it's an excellent solution to whatever the city sees that it needs to solve for in that specific city. And I do think that the wealth gap is what is attributing to the squeeze that we are currently seeing.
So it seems like these policies are possible, but they have to be modulated depending on where they're happening. So something that's successful in New Mexico wouldn't necessarily be successful in Texas, but you still want to find innovative ways to solve for the wealth gap in Texas. It just will look different in that place.
Right. And so that is a stance that used to be a Republican stance in terms of having local control and not allowing for the state to have control. It seems like the Republican Party is sort of shifting away from that type of stance, which I align myself more on every single city having different programs, laws, rules established for their own specific city, especially in a place like Texas, because we cannot treat rural Texas the same as we do urban cities. And so, yeah, I do think that this is important for us to look at individually. Now, when the government starts to take control of corporations that now become government entities, I see that as a massive problem. And I think what my point was on that episode specifically is that we have a president that is in fact establishing socialism, and nobody is watching, and the far right isn't calling it out. And then we have someone who is a mayor in a city that is trying to solve for actual problems within their city. And Wall Street is having a hard time seeing that. I mean, they're completely melting down.
Yeah, it seems like it's like Wall Street is okay with Trump buying into tech companies and owning them, seemingly. I mean, the market under Trump feels like the market is comfortable with Trump in a lot of ways, to me, just from hearing the regular market updates every week on this show. And then Mamdani comes in, and he actually wants to make. It's so funny because I think that when you actually address affordability, but more than that, the cost of living, when you address things like we actually need a middle class, we need to help people afford things like groceries and housing, and we need them to be able to send their kids to school, and we need them to not be able to go hungry, and they need to be able to get around their own city. Why is that more disturbing to Wall Street? And to me, that's crazy because it seems like you would actually have a healthier economy in which more people can participate.
Correct. You would be investing.
And buy stuff. Right. And buy stuff or invest, right? Mm-hmm. They'd have extra cash to put into the stock market if they wanted to. Why is that scarier to them than Trump buying chunks of these tech companies? Why is that a thing?
I don't even know that anyone is really noticing it. I don't know if anyone even seeing it. I mean, obviously, people are hearing about it and there's an alert, but I don't think they're understanding what is actually happening, the bigger picture of the situation. We're just watching whatever company he buys into sort of skyrocket.
So you see these companies skyrocket in value when he buys into them. And no one's really should we be doing that? Is that what we stand for as a company? As a country.
Yeah. Yes.
Why are we okay with, why is the market okay with that? And not just okay with it, but why is the market reacting enthusiastically to that?
I mean,
is it because our old white president is doing it and that they're really freaked out that a young brown guy just won the mayoral race in New York City? Is it just that?
Yes, I do think it's just racism.
I mean, Jesus Christ. It's just come on, guys.
It's so frustrating.
It's so
frustrating. And I think that's what frustrates me even more is how Wall Street is not able to see that what they are fearing is a product of what they have created. What we are seeing is this uprising and wanting to just have the ability to pay rent. It's not like people are asking for much, or the ability to afford childcare, or the ability to pay for groceries. The government is really not solving for these issues. And, Trump ran on the narrative that we were going to be able to afford groceries. And the fact is that groceries still continue to increase. Obviously, that is not what he set out to do. And America is feeling the repercussions of this. The American dream is gone. That does not exist any longer. And that's why Investies exists. That's why we do what we do. I am passionate about the market, Eliza, but I'm not passionate about the market because of what the market is in and of itself. I am passionate about the market because the way the market can change regular people's lives, like the way it changed my life. And I don't want to gatekeep the information, which is what most people that are deeply invested in Wall Street do. It's information that belongs to them and their family. I feel not right about not sharing this space where your investments can multiply in the thousands of percentage point better than in real estate. I just want to make it accessible.
Yeah, I think for me, this idea of not gatekeeping is gatekeeping is a huge reason that we have income inequality. You're seeing this really small group of wealthy individuals hoarding wealth and gatekeeping information about how people can acquire some of it. And you're obviously working to share that information, which is great. That's what we do every week here on the show. But sometimes I just think a lot about the 1% or whatever hoarding wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not a healthy place for the country to be in terms of the economy. But also
Right.
I don't know, I don't want to get like too philosophical here, but like in terms of the soul of the country, like greed doesn't get you to a good place. And that feels like where we're at.
Yeah, it does feel like where we're at. I saw someone say something on the internet like, it's not that we can't feed America. It's not that we can't satisfy America. It's that we can't satisfy the rich, alluding to the amount of disparity that we are currently seeing. And we talked about this before with Ray Dalio, where he said, if we continue to have this massive gap in wealth, then we are going to see a revolt from citizens. And that is all that we are witnessing. And I guess I'm just really frustrated because Wall Street is not taking responsibility for what has been created, right? For the mess that has been made. They're acting almost like victims of an issue that obviously doesn't affect them. That's part of the problem, right? And I think we need to solve for it. I think that capitalism has been made inaccessible. Even though it is within our reach, it has been kept a secret, right? It has been inaccessible. We're not teaching about it in schools on how to participate into the free markets, how to open up an account. We're producing employees instead of having people critically think or create products or services. It's tragic.
And also, Tuesday night, we saw not just Zoran win, but we saw huge Democratic wins, not just in California, which was a huge deal. It felt really good. I live in California. It felt awesome to see not just that Prop 50 passed, but by such a large margin. That was awesome. But we're seeing wins in places like Virginia, huge wins in Georgia, New Jersey. I saw that Moms for Liberty lost every single one of their races on Tuesday night where they were on the ballot. So we are at this moment of intense income inequality. We're in the middle of a government shutdown that looks like it has no end in sight, and the Republicans are literally comfortable gambling with people's ability to eat right now, to force the Democrats to come to a decision that will make everybody's healthcare premiums skyrocket. While all this is going on, we are seeing a bit of a revolt. I think that's what Tuesday night showed me. Do you feel like the tide is maybe, if not turning completely, but do you see shifts that make you feel hopeful?
1,000%. Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me about that.
I think what we saw on Tuesday, we needed to see. Both sides needed to see. I want to celebrate my excitement, but I also don't want to get too excited where we are confident and we think that this next election cycle is going to be a slam dunk, because it's going to require more work than what was done to make Tuesday happen. And so I don't want us to be comfortable in that celebration. It's a glimmer of hope. It's like a crack that we're seeing the light shine through, but it doesn't guarantee us anything. Let me give you an example. Here in Texas, we had changes to amendments that were made, and all 17 propositions passed, which means that in the state of Texas, we didn't show up to vote against some of these propositions. So, I want to be mindful of that. And what it tells us, Eliza, is that change can happen. And what a beautiful thing to witness. A brown man, Muslim, who is claiming socialism in the capital central of the world, capitalism central place of the world. That is huge. So much money was poured against his race, and it showed us the power that we, the people, have. And I think it gave us a little bit of that power back, a little bit of that hope. Now, again, it does worry me here in the state of Texas because we are gerrymandered. And while Prop 50 passed in California, and while that does help the United States as a whole, it doesn't help Texas itself, because we are still dealing with gerrymandered districts where it doesn't matter how much we get out and vote, we still are gerrymandered, and our districts are cut up into places where rural Texas has the power on the say of what's taking place. I think the only thing I see as a potential, revolt from white America is that white America is the one that is going to be affected the most from not being able to receive SNAP benefits.
Yeah, I think I look at this fight that's happening in the government during the shutdown, the federal government, and I'm like, okay, so Republicans are really willing to hurt their own people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure where that goes for them in terms of I'm not sure where you go from there politically. It doesn't seem like a winning strategy to me. And this isn't new. This is not new. Republicans have been convincing white people to vote against their own interests for decades, using white grievance as a motivating factor, using that as a selling point for their policies. I don't deny that, but I guess I'm just sort of okay, what's the long-term strategy, guys?
I have colleagues that vote against what they know is best, meaning they will vote for a Republican agenda, even though they don't agree with it themselves. And their argument is, if I don't vote for this, then I will be removed from office. And it's like, well, then what's the point? What's the point of you even being here and you feeling the way you do and knowing what you know if you don't have the integrity to vote the way you're supposed to vote because you're afraid of who exactly? It's
wild. I think I think there is a connection to be made, though, that a lot of this seems to me that people are it feels like the 1% is so afraid of releasing their wealth and sharing it with the rest of the world, with the rest of the country. Is it because the rest of the country is a lot more diverse than they are, and they are afraid of facing a much more diverse populace and sharing wealth with people who are different than them?
I think so. I don't see I don't see any other reason other than we are watching, you know, brown and Black folks become extremely educated, intelligent, outpacing in some areas their white counterparts. And I think that that is terrifying to them. Absolutely. I mean, I just, it's racism. There's no other way to, it's just racism.
And racism is the backbone of America. It's what America is built on, I think. And seeing that, this country was built on slavery, for which we have never atoned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think until we really grapple with that, it just it worries me for the future of the company. Like, I think you really do have to atone for the sins of slavery in order to accept a more like diverse populace, to accept that, yeah, the power will be shared between different kinds of people, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely, that's a good thing.
I don't listen, I'm a white person. I understand what white supremacy looks like, and I understand where it comes from. But I also am just like, what the fuck is the fear? What are we afraid of?
What's so interesting is that all of these corporations, when you walk into who is working on the engineering side and who's working on the tech side, it is nothing but immigrants. It is all immigrants. When we look at the most basic level of building a country, from construction and the maintenance of what has already been built, it is all immigrants. Whether it's maintaining a clean home, that is an immigrant maintaining the clean home in the white home. It's the immigrant that is putting food on the table, that is actually picking our fruits and our vegetables. It is the contribution of the immigrant. But I think perhaps that's more like a modern day form of slavery.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about, yes, I think it's about subjugation of people who look different from you into lower classes. And I think on the flip side of that, what is cool about the Mamdani win is it's kind of like the largest, the biggest, I think, probably. I know LA exists, right? San Francisco, whatever, but New York is the American city. There's something about the election of Mamdani that like thumbs its nose at that.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, it's not just that he's a democratic socialist and he wants to empower people. It's that he is a representative of the diversity of the greatest city in America.
Mm-hmm.
In a really positive way.
Very positive way. He's extremely intelligent. His parents are extremely intelligent.
And he has his shit together. I mean, he's 34 and he like won.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so impressive. He's so impressive.
Very.
So where do you think the market goes from here?
I think that if the market doesn't take responsibility for socialism, for exactly what they fear, then I do think that we have the potential of collapsing as a country. And maybe the tables are turning, and maybe America moves in a direction that it is destined to move in.
You mean a darker
maybe
direction?
This is yes. And, Ray Dalio talks about this all the time. This is where we're headed, which is so depressing. But there is that crack.
That light.
That light, yeah. The crack in the foundation that is shining some light. And I think there is hope. And I would like to see a country where we can still have capitalism and we make sure that we take care of everyone in this country and not allow for families or children to fall through the cracks. I think that investing in that way into Americans will only generate a much more stronger country.
Yeah. And I think one lesson that I'm hearing from this is that just because we had some wins on Tuesday night doesn't mean we can take our foot off the gas.
Right. No. We're still in the process of, I would say, building a new car.
Yeah.
I like we hit the gas all we could on the old clunker, and we have to, like, we're building a new car, which means that we are learning what the Democratic Party looks like moving forward, and what the institution of the Democratic Party needs to also reflect on, as well as the right wing of politics.
Yeah. And it seems like the Democratic Party has to be big tent because there's so many different people in this country who don't want to vote for a Republican and who want to be able to have dignity in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, the idea that we're not accepting of a big tent, the idea that there were, like Hakeem Jeffries, he endorsed him, but endorsed him at the very last minute. If that doesn't reflect what the Republican Party has done to America, I don't know what does. And so I think we need to really hold ourselves accountable of how we are also mirroring the party that we are trying to, I don't want to say destroy, but I think stabilize, like come closer to the center.
Totally.
I turned off news altogether.
I hate to say it, but I don't trust much of anything.
It's the rage bait.
It feels like it's trying to divide people.
If we got clear facts, maybe we can calm down a little.
NBC News brings you clear reporting. Let's meet at the facts. Let's move forward from there. NBC News, reporting for America.
Chronic spontaneous urticaria, or chronic hives with no known cause. It's so unpredictable. It's like playing pinball. Itchy, red bumps start on my arm, then my back. Sometimes my legs. Hives come out of nowhere. And it comes and goes. But I just found out about a treatment option at treatmyhives.com. Take that, chronic hives. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
So I guess I want to end on a question for you. As a representative, what do you feel like your work is right now? Like in your jobs serving the state of Texas and your constituents, what do you feel like your job is now?
So right now, in this very moment, we have a massive problem. I have food banks in my district that do not have food. In our district, we hold a large turkey drive. I'm not going to mention the company, but a very big company in the United States of America would sponsor that turkey drive. They backed out on us. I had to make calls and try to fundraise to get turkeys out here in our streets, and not because I want to execute a turkey drive, because we are dealing with families that currently do not have food on the table. And so I just want to ensure it doesn't matter if they cook it for Thanksgiving or if they cook it the day that we distribute it. You know what I mean? Like, that is my biggest concern right now in the state of Texas. As a Texas state representative, that is on a granular level what I'm currently dealing with here. I'm also facing the issue, as we spoke about earlier, that we are so gerrymandered that it may not even matter how much we show up. And I hate to even say this, but most especially if those new maps pass. Here, we currently took it to court, so we are still fighting it. So there's a chance that they may not pass. That we may be silenced, and that the far right will go even more far right to make sure that they hold the power and the control in Republican states. What we know to be true in the state of Texas is that they execute the most extreme ideas, and then the other Republican states follow. And then at that point, I think we're having to make difficult decisions on perhaps it's time to leave the state and move somewhere else. I wish that I could answer this question in a much more positive way of like my outlook, but the truth is that every state is different. And unfortunately, the wins that we saw across the state are not going to change the impact that Texas is facing.
Listen, I think it's okay. I mean, not that you need my validation, but if you're in that place, that's okay. You know, I'm sitting here in California where we just passed 50 and that felt really good. So I'm in a bit of a different place because we had a good night on Tuesday.
Sure.
And I think it is important. I think this point is really important, which is that, yeah, we had a good night on Tuesday, but we're still in an extremely precarious place as a country, in a dangerous place for a lot of people. It's dangerous for families to not have food. That turns into a life and death situation. So I think it is really important to say, we had one good night. You can't stop there. You have to keep fighting for the dignity of your neighbors and community members.
Yeah. And, you know, I think we're not really thinking about the psychological impact that takes place for families that are deprived from food and what that does or how that changes that child's journey, which is devastating.
Yeah, and we're going into a season where we're about to have Thanksgiving and we're having a holiday that is all about food. And it just makes you wonder what it would be like if this country cared about its people. If we did adopt some of the more generous policies. I don't even want to say socialist, but generous policies that Zoran is putting on the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really makes me think, it makes me go back to this idea of wealth, hoarding, and of greed, and how that stance deprives others of dignity.
Yeah.
And like, we have to find a way, we have to keep fighting as the majority in this country against that.
We do. We absolutely do. And I think what we got to see on, you know, Tuesday is the possibility of that, is what happens when we actually get to work, mobilize, get up. It doesn't matter how much money is invested against our best interest. If we just vote, if we get up and vote, it will, you know, create impact across the US. And, you know, we have a woman, Latina, Gina Hinojosa, that's running for governor in the state of Texas.
Hell yeah.
And that vote, you know, matters. That vote counts. That is a vote that, you know, is important. So I think there's still possibility in the state of Texas, of course. And I think that, you know, Tuesday showed us that. And so I'm hoping that we get to work.
Okay, one action item that I want to ask you about before we end is, whether you're in Texas or California or Delaware, it doesn't matter. What can people do right now to help their neighbors who are going hungry eat?
You know, I think we have a very low income community right now in my city. And so I think it's important to be mindful of what our neighbors look like and get a sense of, what can potentially be taking place in your neighborhood. Check with your local food bank. See if they have enough food, if they're running low. And then I would say try to strategize to help get food to that local food bank, even if we clean out our pantries and make a donation. Or I would say even trying to rope in businesses in the city that can help donate some money to your local food bank. When I started to make calls on fundraising so that I could, in a moment of, chaos where we were told that this company was not going to provide the turkeys anymore, and started picking up the phone, I think what we'll find is kindness and humanity. And sometimes people just need to be asked. It was me calling businesses and corporations. Sometimes people just need to be asked. And I think that if we can leverage what we have and come together, I think that will be beneficial. We always hear about people going out and serving food on Thanksgiving. I mean, I think we need to have that type of attitude from now until this country makes a change in the right direction.
Yeah, it can't just be Thanksgiving. It has to be every day.
Exactly.
We're worried about each other and we're taking care of each other actively.
Yes. It's interesting. I want to just share this because I thought this was so impactful. It really struck a chord in me. But there is this creator in Africa. She's African, and she did a short video of imitating a commercial that we all heard when we were young of, you too for 52 cents can sponsor a child in America to feed.
Yeah, it really turns the tables, doesn't it, from what we grew up with?
It does. She did a second one that said, eat all of your food, children, because there's American children that don't have food right now. And I thought, wow, it's so true. It is so true. And we have to stop and we have to reflect and we have to do something. Yeah.
And that in contrast to Elon Musk, who just got $1 trillion payday. Those two things should not exist in the same country. That's just not okay. That's not who I want to be as an American.
Right.
So we're going to be back next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about the government shutdown and the government shutdown economy.
Yes.
And in the meantime, as investors, what would you say? Just keep putting money into the market?
Oh my goodness. As investors, I hope that you all can see the responsibility that we have to be participants in the market for multiple reasons, so that we are not just exchanging our time, our mental health, our physical bodies for money, but that we're understanding how money works in this country. I hope that the stark contrast makes us realize the importance of participation. And something that I share with you all the time is that as investors, we all have voting rights. We all have the ability to make decisions on what takes place. Elon Musk is getting paid $1 trillion because the investors that hold stock in that company voted for him to get paid $1 trillion. And so I want you all to start to imagine what can happen if we start to participate and how we can truly change the things that are taking place in this country.
Hell yeah. Well, Linda, thank you so much for breaking it down this week. We're going to be back next week talking more about the shutdown, and just thanks for all your nuggets of wisdom. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Eliza. We'll see you all next week. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. Investies is a Cosmic Standard production. A special thank you to the team, Asia Simpson, Eliza Smith, and Jacob Winnick.